Hey everyone, the Castle here. Uh, just gonna go over a kind of quick update on what I'm doing right now with the editor and everything like that. Now, the multiplayer in-game level editor is still being worked on, and I'm stress testing what it will be like when you have like really big maps with lots and lots of actors, which is something that's a big no-no. You can't have that many replicating actors, which I'm building around that limitation right now as we speak. So basically, what happens is, I mean, you have the general flow, right? You have this, you make a volume, and this volume can then be something that's sort of like right here, like, um, whenever I click save, right here, it saves this file locally on everybody's computer, right? So everybody gets a copy of this prefab locally, based on that, right? And what that means is when you actually make a prefab instance, everybody loads the entire thing as one object from their local save file. So it's instantly loaded and there's very little replication required. Eventually, you'd want to have even really gigantic maps to be uh, as many prefabs as possible, all condensed into like just one, thing. When you're actually playing the game though, and not just in editor mode, because I'm worried more about performance in editor mode. I want to make sure that people um, have good enough performance to be able to to do things that they need while working on the map in a multiplayer environment. So this is how you kind of combat this. This is how I'm combating it. Is that you start off with larger, smaller. You have like small prefabs, kind of like these things right here, right? And then you can clear the prefab to further reduce lag. But if you just want to load it up so that you can modify it right there, then anyone can just walk up to this volume, load it up, and then do the changes that they need to do it. Click save, and then so like let's take you see how like all of these over here have these let me delete this right here, and then I click, and then I go to the volume, and I click save, and I turn around. You'll notice that all the instances of this pillar now have that one thing missing, right? So now this is all saved locally on everybody's computer who's currently participating, right? As soon as you click save, it multicasts over to everybody, and everybody gets a copy of it. And then you start working on bigger things where you start using lots and lots of these objects, right? And then you encompass this area inside of another thing for a prefab. So we can work on this one, giant node area together. And then what we do is we save this prefab, which you got to go outside of it and look inward, which could get a little bit awkward if the prefab's too big. Then you click save here, in which case that will now update this guy over here on everybody's computer, because that will save this file on everybody's computer as well, and they'll have prefabs inside of prefabs inside of prefabs, which then allows us to build very, very big, very large, complex, malleable levels without having too much network latency issues and things of that nature. Now, it's still not uh, fully functional. There's still like little issues going on, but that's basically how this works. So it's a fully multiplayer level editor, and one of the main things that we do is that we want to work with prefabs, which is good because for the workflow, you want to work with prefabs anyway. You in a hierarchical instance environment, you want everything to be prefabs. That's just how it works. Well, in this particular case, if everything's prefabs, it makes the environment much less costly. It's much more efficient. And then on top of that, outside of the level editor, when you play the game in a normal mode where it's not meant to be an editor mode, um, all of this shit just gets boom right down just into like one thing, one world spawn entity. It's all condensed down into static, fully static objects that are immovable and have absolutely no networking at all. They're just geometry. They're just raw geometry at that point in time. And that way you get rid of all of the pretty much you just shave all the lag off. Now, I'm okay with the editor not performing super amazing, with 5 people and a really big map. But like, for smaller stuff like this where you're just building chunks of level and everything like that, I want it still needs to perform well enough to be able to actually sort of, drop these objects in and make sure that everything's playing and give people a chance to run around and shoot stuff and, maybe spawning monsters or whatever, right? So that's basically how this is all set up. So this is the really simple explanation of exactly what it is that I'm doing, and I'm making really good progress on it so far. Um, so this skirts around the limitations of Unreal 4 having too many actors because I'm using components primarily, but it still allows people to be able to modify things in a way that seems to be pretty good. It's not that absurd. You can fly in and drop down meshes or floors, walls, ceilings. There's a fairly large amount of different types of objects that you can place, from actors to all kinds of stuff, spawn points, lights, and everything like that. So the level editor is actually pretty good. It feels pretty good to use it, and it's all integrated fully into the game to a point where if you want to, you could switch into combat mode, which then loads your current character with all the items that your character has right now, or whatever. Or maybe you make like a special editor character so you don't ruin your actual character that you're trying to legit play the game with, and then you get a chance to just sort of run around and grab loot and spawn monsters, and people who are spectating or something like that can also spawn and possess monsters to help you further test the combat and stuff like that. There's sort of a small degree of PvP involved. Just for fun, just to kind of keep things entertaining. It's really nice when you're working on something to actually have people actually playing it while you're working on it, so that you can kind of iron out all the kinks and balance things and get things feeling right um, sooner than as soon as possible, rather than hoping somebody might one day playtest your stuff. Um, there's also more psychology behind this as well, which is sort of breaking down mental barriers. Once you begin doing something, you will continue doing something. So if you have an environment where everything's all in one place, um, all you have to do is break that mental barrier one time, and now you're pretty much ready to just get sort of trapped. That's just how people get addicted to playing a game for 5 hours straight without even realizing what time it is. I'm trying to keep people playing and editing and everything like that in a very similar manner. I want everybody to enjoy the development side of things just as much as they or almost as much as they actually enjoy the gameplay side of things as well. Now, I mean, with that said, the vast majority of people who play this will probably never even touch the editor, but the editor is very important, obviously, overall anyway. So, yeah, let me go ahead and fix this pillar piece. And yeah, so like this is an instance inside of an instance inside of an instance. So I think I rotated, yeah, these pillars right here. So um, check this out. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and fix this pillar. It's gonna be really fun too. Very soon I'm gonna start rolling out just videos of me working on stuff like the level editor and everything like that. And I have a feeling like in a lot of ways this will probably end up being pretty entertaining because yeah, I don't know, it's just something that I would enjoy watching, honestly. Especially if there's gameplay integrated into it and there's people like running around shooting each other while I'm trying to figure out how to build the map. Um, so yeah, so you see this right here? This is all one object with just made out of components, and it updated in real time. Uh, Now I'm only playing in single player at the moment. It works pretty much the same way in multiplayer. There's one issue that I'm trying to solve at the moment, which involves trying to figure out why in multiplayer these are not rotated correctly. There's some kind of a math or a replication error of some sort. But in single player, it's working totally fine. Um, Mostly I've just been sort of wrestling with really silly stuff like performance and trying to make sure that everything is replicating perfectly, as good as I can get it. With that said, it's coming along pretty well, and I'm pretty happy. So, I'm still thinking about what to do with Patreon. Like, I put a really simple one, like if, for $2 a month or something like that, you can get your name on a list. If you, like a special thanks list or something like that, which will be in the title screen, which will be like a button that you can click over here or something like that, and you can see everybody who did that. I don't know how many people will actually do that though. Thinking of maybe something a bit higher than that, for like a special status for the Discord server or something where you can actually join a voice channel that no, other people can't join and stuff like that. If you ever want to ask me questions while I'm live streaming, or whatever, or if I'm just hanging out there in general, um, and maybe even catch if it's possible, maybe even catch me just working, just doing regular work, and share, sort of screen share um, my PC while I'm working on this stuff. With that said, I think that I don't know, I need more thoughts on it. One of the things that I did kind of notice is it's kind of funny is that Patreon seems to actually go very well with other types of content, from which I kind of find it hilarious. And yeah, I didn't really think of it that way, but yeah, it kind of does. Like, I don't think there's probably not too many game developers on Patreon. There seems to be a hell of a lot of artists of various kinds. So, yeah, all right, that's it. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna end the video now. Hope you enjoyed. And yeah, if you're interested in something like this, the game is called X Alive, and it is being designed entirely from with multiplayer in mind, from the ground up, from scratch by me. Everything that you see here is mine. I just redid the logo. It's an open world survival, first person shooter, first person looter shooter, open world survival multiplayer first person looter shooter with with potentially some PvP aspects where people can possess monsters and stuff. And I don't know. I don't know. Like it's doing a lot of different things. And there will be no zombies outside of Zombie Doll. She'll be playing every once in a while. That outside of there will be no NPC zombies in this game. Um, so open world survival without zombies. That right there alone should be enough to get most people's attention. Huh? So what? Where are the zombies? All right. Anyway, with that said, I'm done.